Lara Solomon is a serial entrepreneur and business lover who is always on the lookout for the next opportunity or side hustle. Currently, she's focusing on growing Hoopsy, an eco-friendly pregnancy test brand with a fertility community overseen by healthcare professionals. With Hoopsy, Lara found a way to combine her passion for sustainability with her desire to help others going through the often complicated and lonely fertility journey. As optimistic and extroverted as Lara is, it hasn't always been smooth sailing, but her focus on connecting with others and supporting the community always helped. In this interview, she openly shares her own experience of trying to conceive, what she learned along the way, and why even one less plastic test in landfill makes a difference.
I just feel it's so important. And it's like, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? Maybe that's, I don't know, maybe that's a bit big-headed, I don't know. But I think so often in life where we kind of go, not my problem. Oh, I'm just going to use another plastic bag, another straw, and what does one more matter? Well, actually, everything we do makes a difference. So if I can just change a few people's habits, a few people's perceptions about brands in terms of sustainability, it's all going to have a knock-on effect.
Welcome, Lara. Very pleased to have you. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Well, delighted to have you. And for those of our listeners who haven't necessarily heard of you before, I really like the description that you have on your website, which is a serial entrepreneur, business lover, and speaker full of ideas. So is that a fair description of what your life is right now?
Yeah, pretty much. Just, crazy startup world. Just, making things happen, I guess.
Yes, but there's one project that's very close to your heart, and there's probably one thing that is taking the most of your time right now. So do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. So what I'm working on at the moment is a brand called Hoopsy, and it's an environmentally friendly pregnancy test. So a midstream test, one that you wee on, that's made from 99% paper instead of plastic. So it's much better for the planet. Those current midstream tests that are plastic take 30 years to break down in landfill, whereas because ours is paper, it just takes weeks.
Yes, and I'm sure there's many people who might be thinking, well, but what's the statistic? Like, do people use that many tests? Or does that really make a difference? It's probably something you use only once and in your lifetime, maybe. And you know, what do you say to that?
Well, that's what I thought before I kind of went down this path. But actually, when women are trying to conceive, they use 3 tests on average every time they check. And so if it takes on average a healthy couple under 35, 6 months to get pregnant. So that's 3 tests a month for 6 months. And if you're doing IVF, you would take a lot more tests. And I mean, I've met women that have used 600 tests. So the numbers can be crazy high. So people might think, oh, it's a small little problem, doesn't really need solving. But actually, millions and millions of pregnancy tests are sold globally every year. And it's a massive issue.
And I heard you say problem solving, and I think that's an interesting one because, again, I think you could be described as a problem solver. Is that what really motivates you in the various businesses that you have started in the past, including Hoopsy now? Is that really what where you get the inspiration from?
I guess so, although I hadn't really thought about it like that, which seems kind of strange. But it's kind of like with this, it was just like, this is crazy. Why is it plastic? Why hasn't anyone done anything about this? Well, obviously they haven't done anything. They're not going to do anything. So someone's got to do something. That's going to be me. And so I don't really see it as a problem to solve. I more see it as a solution that needs to be provided, that needs to be on offer. And I think that's the same with every business I've had. It's like there is a need, someone needs to deliver on that need, and no one else has noticed. So let's just do it.
And does that mean there's not really many competitors to Hoopsy out there in the moment? If I were to go out and go to a mainstream pharmacy, would I be able to find your product or any competitors' products? Or
we're currently, as far as I know, the only sustainable midstream pregnancy test in the world. We are selling in 30 pharmacy stores in the UK. So depending on where you go, depends on whether you'd see us on shelf. But it's is something I'm trying to get us into more retailers, but it's challenging because the retailers don't then they don't see it as a problem that needs to be solved. So it's trying to persuade them that people do want this product. They are looking for this product and it is just as good as what's out there. It's just much better for everyone.
Oh, that's very interesting, because when I mentioned to a few of my friends that I'm interviewing you today and that this is what you do, and it's almost felt like a no-brainer. No one argued and said, "Oh, what a terrible idea." Why I really want to use plastic. So it sounds a bit strange to me, but I guess that's one of the many challenges that you have to navigate as a small business owner.
Yeah, I mean, that is the thing. Every single person I speak to says it's a no-brainer. Why hasn't anyone done this before? And so on a consumer level, yes, everyone's like, great, love it. But on a retail buyer level,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a case of better the devil you know, in that
Mm-hmm.
we sell X number of these per week and it brings us in this much money. And ultimately, I need to deliver in terms of financials. And if we replace it with this other product, is that going to be the same? Or the sustainable angle is not enough of a persuasion for them. So we'll see.
But I think I saw somewhere you described yourself not just as a serial entrepreneur, but also a social entrepreneur. And I think your business, obviously, my understanding is that you're trying to solve something else other than just the plastic in the ground. But I think you started with a bit of an idea of what that community should look like, who should work in your team, and what you're ultimately trying to achieve. I think it goes a little bit further than just saving on plastic.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I found through talking to women and my own personal experience is that when we're growing up, you're told the whole time, don't get pregnant, don't have sex, you know, you're going to have a baby, blah. But no one talks about that when you actually want to get pregnant, when you actually want to have a baby, it's all kind of don't do it. But and then reality, what's happening is that people are, when it comes to trying to conceive, they're having problems. I mean, there's now like 1 in 7 couples in the UK have problems trying to conceive, and they're saying that 50% of men in the Western world will be infertile by 2045. There's a lot of scary facts out there due to environmental factors, due to habits like, you know, exercise, diet, that kind of thing. And it's something that I really think we need to be aware of, because I don't know about you, but growing up or when I was at school, it was all just like, this is how sex works. Here's how you put a condom on a banana and off you go. And no one spoke about anything relating to your fertility or what impacts it or any problems that you could have. And so that's one thing why we do it. We have an free online fertility community to support women and educate women. And it's just, the more and more I get into this space, it's like this can of worms. It's like you think it's only fertility, but then it's like things like PCOS and endometriosis. And I went to a conference on the weekend and they said it takes 7 years on average for a woman to be diagnosed with endometriosis. So someone that has it has to go through that pain, that talking to GPs, that is a problem, trying to persuade them it's a problem. And this is happening a lot of these areas of women's health and fertility. And it's just something that really needs to be brought to the forefront, because lots of the times women think, oh, well, I'm just being a bit pathetic, or, you know, it's not really a big deal, because they get written off by doctors or whoever. And actually, it is a big deal. And people need to be listened to. And part of how they can do that is through educating themselves. And there isn't really much education out there at the moment.
Yeah, so you're trying to solve part of that problem by having an online forum. But I suppose what's interesting about it is that it actually has professionals, medical professionals moderating, so that people can be confident that getting scientific advice rather than just somebody told me one day in the pub that this worked, and it's never been trialed and tested, but they tried anyways.
Yeah, I mean, that's what when I was trying to conceive, I was in a lot of communities and I kept seeing someone would post something and someone would say, my cousin's sister's brother's aunt had this and this is what happened. And there's always those outliers. There's always that random person we all hear about that didn't know they were pregnant and one day was in the loo and a baby popped out. And, you know, it's very hard for a regular person. You're kind of like, there's those stories that really give you hope, but realistically, how often does that happen? And And how often do people, like, that whole just relax and it will happen thing? And it's just the worst thing you can do, because you can't relax just because someone tells you to relax. It doesn't.
Mm.
There's so many factors that go into it. So I just felt that people, yes, women need the support, but also they need proper advice. And obviously, it's not going to be tailored specifically to them, because obviously the expert doesn't know their history and everything. But at least it gives them, like, reasonable, like, proper information, like where to go, what to look for, as opposed to false hope. Or in the other side of it, just basically saying, oh, don't worry about it, or writing on something not important, which can happen as well, and then things get missed. And it's just, yeah, there's so many myths out there. It's crazy.
And you probably just need someone out there to just really listen, but in a non-judgmental way, instead of people who might be closet, who may be, as you say, trying to help, but really only making it worse by giving, their opinions or things that, are well intended after all, but just build on to that pressure. And unless you've gone through that, from speaking with my friends, I know it's just very hard to relate.
It is. And I think people don't realize how emotional it is. And I didn't realize either until I went through it. And it's, the smallest thing can upset you. And you're hoping so much that it's going to work. You really, really want that, you want to get pregnant, or you want to, whatever it is you're hoping for out of the situation, that it just doesn't help not getting the right information. And it can upset you really, really easily.
Yes, I think we sometimes need to be reminded of that. But we will come back to Hoopsy. But I thought that I might actually ask you a little bit about your background, because you are a Brit, but you've spent a big chunk of your life in Australia. And in fact, I think that's where you're hoping Hoopsy is going to go next after the UK market.
Well, when I was at uni in the UK, I met a guy. He was English, but he'd applied for residency in Australia. So basically, I moved over there to be with him. I ended up getting residency in Australia. We got married. And after 5 years, I just decided it wasn't 100%. I liked him, but I couldn't see myself getting old with him. And I just thought, it's just not for me. And so we got divorced. But I stayed in Australia because I loved it. I love the lifestyle, love swimming in the ocean. It's just really is like my happy place. So yeah, and I just came back to the UK only for 6 months at the end of November last year. It's now been 9 months, but all my family keeps saying, you've moved back. I'm like, no, I haven't. I'm definitely not living here. So yeah.
Yeah, your website still says that you live in Australia, so I think there's some intention in that there. But obviously, I think it's hard for people to imagine that you weren't always a serial entrepreneur. In fact, you did get some experience, and like many of us, had a normal full-time job working for someone else, presumably in a big office. So what was that like, and how long did you last in that kind of environment?
So my first job out of uni, I worked for a company called Reckitt. They do. I worked on Lemsip and Dettol in their marketing team, and then I worked for an online hair care product, and I launched a range of kitchen appliances into Australia. And one thing I found that working in a big company is that it was very much, this is how we do things. Like, we take this path, we can't deviate off this path to look at other things. This was quite a while ago, so there was no influencer marketing and stuff. And I was like, maybe we should look at PR. And they were just like, we don't do PR. And there was no even consideration. It was just like, that's not how we do it. And I found that quite frustrating, because it's not that I thought I was necessarily right, but I didn't think there's any harm looking at other options. And I think that when you're working for a big company, that's often the challenge, is that they have fixed ways of doing things, and it's not formulaic, but it's quite, the steps they go through can be quite similar every time. And I found that very frustrating. I mean, there's obviously benefits to working in a big company as well, like, having R&D people on site, having manufacturing on site, all that kind of stuff makes a huge difference in terms of speed to market. But for me, in terms of my role, I just found, in terms of marketing, it quite frustrating, in that I couldn't just try things and do what I thought might work, or even investigate what I thought might work. So I did actually go back and work for an online travel company in their marketing team in the UK in 2012. It was a 1-year maternity cover. I only lasted 6 months.
That
So,
tells us something.
yeah. And they wanted me to stay on full time, and I went part time after 6 months. And it wasn't that was a much smaller business, like 30 people. But again, I found it quite frustrating because even with a small business, it was quite siloed, as in, we only do this, we only do that. Neville the devil shall meet kind of thing. And I did manage to change a lot of things while I was there, and I got sales and marketing actually working together, and we're getting better results. But it was still very challenging in that there was quite set ways of doing things. But then you do have people that want to help you at that starting phase, and they really want to support you, and they like that you're doing something new and exciting. And in some ways, people like to support you because they feel like they probably wouldn't have the get up and go or the nerve to try it, to go out on their own. So when they see someone else doing it, they're like, this is awesome. Oh, I'm going to help them. That's kind of my way of doing that, but not doing it because I'm still in my safe little job or big job.
Living vicariously through somebody else's life.
Yeah.
Yes. And I suppose there's two ways you can try and simplify lives for consumers. One way is to do something, a new product or something that's innovative, and then the other way is to actually help some of these businesses to optimize their processes, to run better. So I know you've had a bit of experience from both sides.
Yeah, I mean, it amazes me with Hoopsy. I mean, we've been selling for about 12 months, and I've been doing a lot of pitching. So for people that don't know, so as a startup, they run pitch competitions. You go and talk about your business normally for 3 minutes, and then judges ask you a few questions, and sometimes there's a winner at the end of the night and sometimes there's not, but it's a way to get your business out there and get it heard and seen. The last couple of pitches ago, this lady came up and said, social media, what are you doing? And I was like, we're doing stuff, but it's not going as well as I'd like. And she's like, I'm a social media manager, I want to work with you for free for a month and help you. And this happens a lot. People want to help. They want to see you succeed because they love what you're doing. They love that you're passionate about it. And it's amazing. I have been on both sides in terms of startups come to me and say, oh, how do I do this? How do I do that? And I just think it's so important to be able to share that knowledge and give the support to other people. That doesn't necessarily mean doing it for them. That just means introducing them to people that can help or whatever, because you don't know what you don't know. And I think that's the hard thing, and asking for help and getting that support is so important in anything, whether it's in your business or in your job or in life. And there's so many people out there willing to help, and I just don't think we always realize that. We always think we're the only person that doesn't know how to do X, Y, or Z, but actually people like to see other people succeed.
Yes, and I think I quite enjoy the positive story that you're sharing with us, but I'm sure that there were times when you were less optimistic and you needed help, and hopefully you got it. But what was probably the biggest challenge or the biggest lesson that you had to learn on once you started on that I'm a business founder journey?
I think it really was that I feel, and I still, even though we keep talking about authenticity and leaning in and all this kind of stuff, and when I started my first business was 2004, so it was a long time before all of this kind of stuff became trendy. So I went to, my sister's a movie producer, and we went to a premiere of one of her films recently. And yeah, it was fun, but wasn't mind blowing. But then afterwards on social media, I saw someone's take on it on the evening, and it made it look like it was the hottest event of the season. And I think it's that. I think it's that's how people often come across, and yet in real life, it's not all like that. And so I think for me, like that was one of the hardest things when people said, oh, it's going amazingly well, not to feel like, oh, I'm a loser or I'm not doing very well, because actually it's just like social media. That's just one tiny snippet in their day, in their life. And I think sometimes we get so suckered in with the perception that people are doing amazingly well, but actually it's not always the reality.
Yeah, well, I think in this kind of environment of social media, a lot of things may not look or may look a certain way, and I think that's true not just about the entrepreneurial space,
No,
but just about anything,
yeah,
and having those sorts of genuine, open connections and conversations becoming a rarity. And I think that's why we wanted to have that podcast, not just to talk about a specific theme, but just to be honest and maybe talk about some of these topics that people find taboo or just not, it's not that easy to open up. But yeah, and I, as you were speaking, I was also thinking about times when you probably also have to be honest with yourself. And if something's not working out, say no, whether that was, a relationship or your business. And I know you've sold a few businesses and you've moved in and out of different ideas. So how do you know when it's time to say goodbye and maybe sell the business or move on to something else?
For me, it's all about passion. For me, I will only do things I love, that I'm passionate about. And when that passion goes, I just lose interest. And sometimes it happens, like, takes years, and sometimes it doesn't. And I know in myself, I can't do something if I'm not passionate about it. And that's the same as roles I've done, whether it's like when I started Hoopsy, I was working part time in a customer service role because the business didn't have enough money to pay me at that stage. And I wanted a brain dead job so that I could use brain power to think about my business. And it got to, I think I was there 3 or 4 months and I just hated it. I absolutely hated it. I didn't want to go, didn't want to do it. And I just called it and just said, I just quit. And my friends are all like, why would you quit when you haven't got anything else to go to? And I'm like, because I just hated it so much. I wasn't doing a good job. I wasn't feeling happy about doing it. And maybe that is short-sighted, but I know also at the end of the day that it's not actually that hard to get another kind of role like that because it's not super highly skilled. But for me, being happy and enjoying what I'm doing is, and that some people are like, well, you can't always be happy. And it's true, you can't always be happy, but like you really want, I think you want 90% of your time to be spent doing stuff you love. And why would you bother otherwise? It's like, I just don't get it. People that whinge about their job day in, day out. It's just, you've only got one life. You enjoy. And I think that's how I've known every time that it just wasn't something that I wanted to continue doing. And I think what's very telling about Hoopsy is that we're coming up to 2 years in December from when I started it. And the time has gone in an absolute flash. And you know what they say, time flies when you're having fun. I'm doing the right thing for me.
Yes, and that actually is a very nice segue into what I was going to say next, because I did read your website, and one of the things that you say, this is a quote from there, is that I want to reduce the amount of plastic going into landfill from pregnancy tests and know that every test that we sell means one less plastic test in the bin. This is what makes me jump out of bed each morning. So is that really, would you say that that's kind of, you found your passion combining sustainability with also building a community around fertility education? And do you still feel that way? Do you still jump out of bed every morning?
Well, I have to be honest, I wouldn't say every morning. Like, oh, why'd the alarm go off? But there's not that many of them. But yes, I mean, like this morning, I was scrolling through TikTok. I just uploaded a video for Hoopsy, and then I saw this girl had posted on her TikTok channel that she was pregnant, and she posted 2 pictures of pregnancy tests. One of them was a Hoopsy test, and I was like,
yes,
this is so good because one less test in landfill, but also I didn't pay her. I didn't send her a free product. I didn't ask her to post. She posted because she loved it. And that's the stuff I love. And it doesn't happen every day, but I just think for me I'm just really excited about that. Everyone else is really after, but that's what makes it for me, is those moments. And I don't know, but I think so often in life we kind of go, not my problem. Oh, I'm just going to use another plastic bag, another straw, and what does one more matter? Well, actually, it does make a difference. Everything we do makes a difference. So if I can just change a few people's habits, a few people's perceptions about brands in terms of sustainability, it's all going to have a knock-on effect. It's like so when I was in Sydney, I used to do ocean swimming every day with friends, and every day I'd take a plastic bag with me to the beach, like an old bread bag or something, and I'd collect rubbish on the beach at the end of our swim. Not for long, but I don't know, 10 minutes maybe, just depending on how much time I had. And it got to the point where everyone else was also doing it as well. I didn't ask them to, but they did.
Mm,
And so I really think we need to lead by example.
mm. Yeah, and I think I did read actually about Australia being particularly good about cleaning up their beaches. So I think that's something that we can all learn from. And it probably wasn't just you. I'm sure there's many others who do that and pay it forward. And so I love that. I love that kind of thinking.
And I think sometimes we just don't think it will matter. And yet it does. Everything, every action we do does make a difference or can make a difference. And yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm perfect all the time, but I just think it's all about just thinking about what you're doing before you do it. And if you can do it, then make a difference.
Well, I think that sums up the ethos of Hoopsy very nicely. So what is next? What are you excited about, and where do you hope that journey would take you?
Well, I have this grand vision. I don't know if I will achieve it because it's pretty huge, which is to eliminate plastic from all home-based testing kits. So that's like COVID tests, diabetes tests, STI tests, all of those kind of tests, because none of them need to be plastic. But we've just done it that way because we've always done it that way. And that's what I would like to achieve. But I think that even if I don't achieve it, then what I would like to do is, or hope that I do, is inspire other people to make a change, make a difference. And that, because obviously I don't think I can do it on my own. I think it's going to take other people as well. Like, so with other brands coming out with more sustainable products, or other companies or countries introducing laws that plastic taxes and things like that. I just think it's all those things will come together to achieve this, and that's my grand vision. But there's over 1 billion tests sold every year globally, so
Plastic ones.
yes,
Yeah,
plastic.
and how many? I think you had the statistics somewhere. How many tons of plastic that is? It's a huge number, isn't
Yeah,
it?
over 11 million kilos. It's a huge, huge issue. And okay, there are bigger issues, but it's one of those things where this is such a small change that you can do if you are buying a pregnancy test, is to just buy the sustainable one. Works just as well. And you're contributing to taking out some of that plastic. And I think that's the same with everything. And I think often sustainable products get a bit of a bad rap because people don't think they're as effective or they're too expensive. And I agree, a lot of them are expensive. But with our product, it is the same price and it's the same accuracy. So I've tried to make it a no-brainer, and that's what I feel we need to do as a society, make it easy for people to switch. And that's when people will switch, because they don't have to learn a new way of doing things. They don't have to pay more. So why wouldn't they?
Yeah, and I was thinking about if you could go back maybe to the beginning of that journey and just kind of whether it was your starting a business kind of journey or the trying to conceive, like what's the one thing that you would recommend people, a piece of advice that you could save others a little bit of time and headache?
Oh, that's such a good question. I have to say, the starting to conceive journey, I knew nothing about it. One of the things I didn't realize with fertility is, so obviously your egg gets released, then it gets fertilized, then an embryo grows into a baby. Short story. But that egg starts its journey to get to your uterus a year before it gets there. So everything you're doing in that 1 year leading up to that ovulation is affecting that egg. So things in terms of nutrition, things in terms of exercise, in terms of lifestyle. And it's not like I'm, crack addict that drinks every night, but, there's always things you can do, like just, losing weight makes a big difference. If you are a bit overweight, that makes a big difference too if you try and conceive naturally. And yes, there's always outliers. There's always that person that we know that weighs like, I don't know, a lot and is pregnant. But the research does show that all of these lifestyle factors go into affecting your fertility. And I think that that's one thing. If I'd have known that, I would have made more effort on that front. And I think that's something we don't always realize. And also, if you're in a couple, it's not just the girl, it's the guy as well. You know, like they need to look at that and what their lifestyle is like. And that massively affects your fertility. So yeah, that would be something. And no one tells you. Like, I mean, I was seeing fertility specialists, and I had my eggs harvested first time, and she just said, take these supplements. She didn't say exercise. She didn't say eat better. She didn't say stop drinking. She didn't say stop smoking. Oh, I don't smoke. But, you know, she didn't tell me any of this stuff. It's just all, you're expected to know it. And we don't know it. Or if we do know it, it's like, yeah, I know I need to do that, but I'll get there. And you don't end up doing it. So, yeah, that would be my big piece of advice. If you are going down that fertility journey, it's really a case of having your body in the best possible shape it can be, because that will help you conceive more quickly.
And it will hopefully make you feel better as well. So,
yeah,
like that message.
Yeah, that's the added bonus, isn't it? That you feel good, and when you feel good, things always go better, I find, anyway.
There's that kind of rule of life, which is something that I absolutely believe in. But I mean, look, so if people wanted to find you, you're on hoopsy.com. And then if they wanted to get some advice or resources, that's also available there. And can anyone join the community? Is it free to join?
Yeah, it's free to join the community. There's a tab when you go to the website at the top, you just click on. You just need to enter an email and a password to join. But that's just so that what happens in the community stays in the community. Yeah, and if you want to get in touch, like my phone number's on the website, do WhatsApp me. Some people do WhatsApp me a lot, which is lovely. So it's a case of, like, I'm more than happy to chat to people about what I've been through or put you in touch with people. And sometimes it's just enough for people to know that there's someone out there that does actually care and will help them. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be careful with those invitations. You never know what you're going to get, Lara. But look, I think hopefully we've given people out there some ideas, some hope, some desire to maybe connect with others, and much like you approach things with optimism and positivity, and try and meet other people, other women or anyone really, who's willing to help them work towards their goals.
I would just say one thing, actually, because I know a lot of people that are looking for friends and say that it's so hard to make friends when you're in your 30s, 40s, change the number, whatever. And one thing I found is that it is really a case of asking them. Like, I've met a lot of people at networking events, and I say, I'd love to keep in touch. Can I get your number? Can we catch up? And then actually following them up and saying, do you want to do coffee? Do you want to do da-da-da? So, and what's the worst they can say? Sorry, I'm busy. Like, I just think you've just got to put yourself out there a bit. And it surprises me the number of people that don't. And yet when you do, you just have some amazing connections and make some amazing friends, and makes it all worthwhile.
What's there to lose?
Exactly.
My conversation with Lara reminded me of why it's so important today to be the change that we want to see in the world, and stop waiting for someone else to do that for us. Next time on the show, we have fintech entrepreneur Nikki Seville, who set up her own consulting business before embarking on a journey to improve access to financial planning for women. Thank you so much for listening to The Sound of Breaking Glass. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to follow us on your podcast app, tell a friend about us, or check us out on LinkedIn. New episodes are released every other Wednesday. It's been a real pleasure. Till next time.